What do a lot of parents do that unknowingly screws their children over? Story 1. Forgetting that a kid's brain isn't fully developed like their own. Also, shaming in any way of something your kid is into. Trying to learn about it is actually quite helpful and a good way to connect. And parents can learn things that they like too. I didn't know I liked Pierce the Veil until my 12-year-old liked them, and I wanted to check them out. Story 2. I was raised with the motto, if you lose, you can't come home. My great-grandfather said it to my grandmother when she was being bullied by a boy. My grandmother said it to my mother when she ran in the house from a girl who was beating her up, kicked her out and locked the door. If you lose, you can't come home. For me, there was no one incident. It was just a mantra. And now I am absolutely afraid of failure of any sort. I come to work early to prepare and stay late to make sure I've got it right. Same with my hobbies and every part of my life. I cannot be bad at anything. Free time only exists as practice, study, training time. The amount of pressure I put on myself is not healthy. I'm 38 years old and I haven't spoken to my mother in 10 plus years. But I almost always win. And I'm freaking amazing at the things that I do. Small consolation. Parents mess us up, man. Story 3. Forcing them to hug people, friends, family members, when they say they don't want to. All you're teaching them is to put other people's feelings above their own discomfort. Bonus points for guilt trips. Well, if I don't get a hug, then I won't give you this toy I bought for you. Please don't teach my child to give physical affection in exchange for gifts. I was raised this way, and was such a people pleaser, I would make my life as difficult as possible to make sure I don't inconvenience a soul. It's a lot of work to unlearn it. Story 4. Passing on food issues by commenting on their children's weight or what they eat, etc. Or commenting on their own weight and food habits, always dieting and putting themselves down. I am so lucky my parents and family have a healthy relationship with food, and thus I do as well. I have adult friends who have all kinds of messed up food issues precisely because their parents messed them up. Story 5. Not letting them learn how to mourn. On a grander scale, there's this idea of not letting your children suffer. We all know it's important to let them struggle a little to learn how to cope. But one no one ever talks about is allowing your child to mourn a loss. If a beloved toy breaks, go buy a replacement ASAP. If a pet fish dies, go buy a replacement ASAP. You're teaching the kid to just replace things they've lost instead of processing the loss. So what happens when they lose something that can't be replaced? They don't know what to do or how to handle it. Like, let your kid cry over their dead fish for a few days and bury it in the garden with some flowers before asking if they'd like another. People think it's small, oh, it's just a toy. But losing a beloved toy is likely the closest thing a kid has to losing a person or a pet they've had for years, like a dog. Let them learn to mourn their lost teddy bear so they'll build those processes and when older, can mourn the family dog, etc. Story 6. Telling your kids they are so smart constantly when they are excelling in primary school, but then expecting the exact same grades and chastising them for being lazy once they hit middle school and the work actually becomes difficult. You're not pushing them to do better. All you've done is instill this idea that they've peaked early and that they are a failure and a disappointment for not being a genius because everything used to be so easy and suddenly it's hard and everyone is mad at them. Ask me how I know. Parents, reward honesty, hard work, and a good attitude. Don't attach your kids' worth to their grades and test scores. Also, the difficulty jump for things like math is absurd between primary and secondary school, so expect some struggle. Not to mention, puberty is happening at that time and absolutely fucking with the kids' emotions. Story 7. Not letting them struggle. I don't mean parents should never help, but running in to fix every difficulty teaches kids to think they can't solve problems. Help them by asking questions, by encouraging them to explore solutions, not by clearing every obstacle in their path. And then, help them to reflect on the process. Praise them for their effort and their persistence. Let them learn to view mistakes and failures as part of the process. Let them own their successes and be proud that they worked hard. Story 8. Bullying their own kids and then telling them they need to toughen up and grow a thicker skin when the kid gets upset. Like whatever happened to just treating your kids with respect and kindness so they in turn would treat others with respect and kindness. Also, completely disrespecting their kids' boundaries when they say no. If you don't listen when your kid is telling you no, why would your kid think that anyone else is going to listen to them when they say no? I think your own parents being your biggest bully growing up is a topic that seriously needs more research. And I don't mean just the obviously abusive kind. I mean the subtle bullying. Constantly telling your kids they can do better. So why aren't they getting better grades? The constant bringing up embarrassing shit that happened when they're kids. The pranks that makes your kid embarrassed and uncomfortable and then telling them they can't take a joke. Forcing your kids in situations where they're clearly uncomfortable and doing nothing to make them feel better or secure. Story 9, try to keep their kids from making mistakes. Mistakes are good teaching moments, and when you are a kid, the consequences are the least serious. This would lead to more honesty and openness, since kids wouldn't feel okay with discussing a mistake with you, because they know you want to help them grow from it. Instead, parents are making their kids keep secrets out of fear they will be punished, instead of taught how to better handle the situation. Story 10. Thinking kids owe their parents shit for providing food, shelter, etc. Wanting kids to be thankful is one thing for sure. But a lot of parents think the basic necessities are something they have to be thankful for all their life no matter what. It's hurtful for both parties. Kids didn't ask to be born. It's a lifelong commitment for the parents. Talk to your kids. Provide, and don't think you're a messiah for doing things you're supposed to do as a parent. My mom told me way too often, "I gave up so much for you. I really feel like a problem 80% of the time, and if I don't people please, I feel physically sick." Setting boundaries is so hard for me even at 30 with 5 years of constant therapy. Don't do that to your kids. No contact guaranteed. Story 11. Saying things like, "While you live in my house, you cannot do X," or "You have to do X while you live under my roof." This creates a feeling that the son is not welcome in the house he lives in, and he's merely a guest with limited rights. Parents say this crap and then keep wondering why their children left them to rot alone in their house. Also, "You cannot do X until you are 18, 21 years old," or "not until you're 18." It implies that after 18, all rules are worthless and the teen will be able to go wild and do whatever he wants. Parents create the 18 years old rule and then get shocked when teens go wild after 18. Also, it's harmful for teens who stayed in chains for years and now want to try everything at the same time. Story 12. Not teaching them to do basic things for themselves like making food, cleaning, or doing laundry. I had my kids making their own lunches and helping do their own laundry in kindergarten. I used to tell them that I wasn't being lazy making them do these things, that this is something they need to learn. I also took them to the grocery store with me to pick out what they wanted for lunch for the week, because that was also a good way to teach them about proper nutrition, but also giving them some control over what they had for lunch. Kids need a certain level of autonomy. Let them pick out their lunch snacks, pick out their clothes in the morning. I even got them alarm clocks and taught them how to set them up so they could get up for school. It gives them a sense of purpose and confidence doing these things and making these decisions. Most kids get woken up by their parents, told what to wear, made breakfast by their parents, sent to school where all day they are told what to do by their teachers. They eat what their parents pack them for lunch, eat what they're given for a snack, sent home to do homework, and their parents cook them dinner and get them ready for bed. That's a whole lot of no control over their lives day after day. Story 13. Moms choosing other men over their own kids. My parents divorced when I was 9. Didn't see my dad much after that. My mom started dating and acting like a teenager. I left home while she went shopping, and I didn't see her until late at night or the next day, when I was fucking 9 years old. I honestly cried so much wondering if something had happened, if she was okay, if she died. I have tons of anxiety, abandonment issues still at 45. Story 14. Not getting their kids professionally diagnosed because there's nothing wrong with them. My parents refused to believe anyone who suggested I should be tested for autism. My mom always used to tell me all about how she stood up to my teachers for me. She never told me specifically what it was about other than they said you needed to be in special classes, but I told them no. Little did she know how much I struggled socially because I thought I was normal. If I had gotten the help I needed early on, I doubt I would have struggled as much as I did. Story 15, not vaccinating their kids. Let's push back all the normal arguments for a sec. Let's assume the kid ended up healthy-ish and is now in high school. You wouldn't have been able to play on any sports teams in high school. You can't get into a 4-year college without all your vaccines. You can't get a food handler's permit without full vaccinations, no fast food. You can't work with kids at a daycare. You can't volunteer or work with the elderly. You can't get a job that requires a degree either. Your parents never wanted you to succeed. They faced scrutiny from friends, family, co-workers, and schools to ensure that you failed as an adult. Story 16, not having a father around. The state of schools held the outright lunacy of some of these trends that continuously show up. Okay, TikTok has completely gone off the rails, imho, within the last 5, maybe 10 years. We are at a precipice of zero consequences for the youth in America. I'm not sure which way we are going to fall. When children don't face consequences at home, then teachers are afraid to issue punishments at school. Then they become adults, and laws are set in place where these people commit crimes, and again, face zero consequences. 3 levels of failure. No consequences at home, school, and in society. Story 17. Probably posted already, but if your kids show signs or are diagnosed with any learning, behavioral, or developmental disabilities, please tell them and get them the help they need and deserve, and be patient and understanding. Denying and hiding it from the kid and not getting them the help they need is extremely cruel no matter what. Yes, I hear all the well-meaning reasons, not wanting them labeled, hurt future, othered, etc., but from not only my personal experience, but experience of others' kids, I grew up with it and read their stories, it just makes our lives harder. We fall behind and don't know why. We try only to fail over and over again. Constantly punished by parents, schools, etc. for things truly out of our control. I constantly feel behind and useless, but I found out I am and was autistic. A lot of my peers were the same, but they dropped out of school, got into crime, addictions, etc. Yes, it is their own decisions, but still, it is something to consider and think about how different would things be if we were given help early. Story 18, not being physically affectionate. I remember gingerly putting my arms around my parents when I was leaving for college. Minutes later, I realized that was the first time I had hugged them. Since then, I hug them every time I come home before I leave. Now, they've come to expect it and feel upset when I don't do it, but will still never initiate it. It's better now, but growing up in a household of severe childhood trauma with no warmth from your caregivers gave me some real issues. Story 19. Hot take, but keeping them off technologies, the internet. Obviously, this needs to be something that happens under strong supervision and in an environment of honest and open education. Obviously, the internet technology can be bad in all the ways that they are bad. But when kids fall behind on technological digital literacy, they're screwed. The truth of the world we live in is that you need to at least know how to use and navigate these things. It's just most parents aren't willing to dedicate the time and effort it takes to equip their kids to do that in a safe and healthy way. They'd rather just limit it entirely to have no limits on it. Story 20. Not showing interest when the child is excited or happy or interested or proud of something. I don't mean showing the same level of excitement or the like, but not enough to where they can't even look up from their phone for a minute. I learned something so cool and interesting about science, animals, space, and you were the first person I thought of and came from where I was to come tell you. You can't spare 1 minute to pay attention to me? At first, it was enough to where they'd still not be looking up from their phone or pause, mute the TV, but still responding to me. Even if it was one-worded answer. Eventually, I realized how little they cared and what those one-word answers meant. I'm 28 and self-employed, doing my passion in life and teaching other youth to do this same thing. I show them the same level of excitement that they have to learn. Some days when I'm done or alone, I feel recluse, shameful, embarrassed, worthless, because of how my parents would act, and it makes me question showing sad excitement and proudness towards the same youth I am helping. Such a terrible feeling I know I'll carry for the rest of my life.